Michigan is building something maybe more special than you realize with this 2026 recruiting class. We're here to tell you why. Talk about it on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday again. Second episode of the day. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Lowell, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers and apparently our multiple everydayers. Those of you who listen to all of the shows we produce in a timely fashion, thank you for making us your first listen. And we do appreciate it. So the entire bulk of the episode, we're going to just kind of meander throughout some of what we learned coming out of, and I'm going to look at my notes to make sure that we're covering everything. But what we learned coming out of the Michigan recruit weekend that was, which hosted, or at least saw the hosting of multiple commitments, or all of the commitments rather. And I think there's a lot that is really interesting about this 26 class. And it starts with Jaylen Pile and Brady Smigel. You can include others in there. I think McCorder and his family, but this is a little bit like, it reminds me of, and this isn't going to be a popular comparison, but it reminds me of but I think it's deeper than this. I want to note that off the bat. I think it reminds me it's deeper of the classes like the Shane Morris class, or who's the one afterwards? Didn't actually end up sticking around, end up transferring to Virginia, Mike something, linebacker. I don't remember his name. So that's not a good sign, what I'm saying. But don't let that deter you. I think this is special in a different way, what is being built in Ann Arbor. And it's like just talking to some people that were kind of around-ish, or like have knowledge of what was going on in Ann Arbor over this Victor's weekend and everything. I just kept on hearing like just raving about what this, like the commits, how like tight they are, like the leadership, the maturity. It's one of those things where it reminds me a lot of kind of the team itself going into 2021. But except this is like the recruits, the committed players, rather than the players who are already on the team. Like the culture is already there. I think that's an interesting thing to look at and think about, right? Like the culture is emanating already down into the recruiting aspect. When you consider like there has to constantly be like a rebuilding of the culture kind of on a year by year basis, right? Like that's how you keep culture. The fact that like you've got guys that are like, we get the culture, going to like talking to like, after I heard some of the things I heard, not to kind of traverse to a different part of this. After I heard some of it, I talked to Jaylen Pile because I was like, okay, I want to, if I just write this out, like kind of the way that I'm speaking, it's not going to be as impactful as hearing more from like one of said recruits. So I got Jaylen Pile on the phone today. And the things that he was saying, it's just like, it makes you look at it and be like, all right, he kind of reminds me of like a Mikey Zayner still in 2022. Like just already has that like mentality of like, we got to bring everybody together. And I think where that it's interesting because not only do you have guys like that, you also see things coming out of Victor Weekend, like McHale Blade being back on campus, Alister Vallejo. These are guys who just officially visited. Like McHale Blade, okay, you're 5 hours away, or 4 hours from Ann Arbor rather. Being from Chicago, Simeon, but like Alister Vallejo's from like Liberty Hills. Like that's a trek, right? Houston area, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. But you know what I mean? Like to get on a plane again and make your way back to Ann Arbor after you've already had your official visit, just so that you can be with your boys and so that you can kind of work to try to help like gives those other guys that you can be in the ear of a Carter Meadows, so that you can be in the ear of a Calvin Russell. I think that that's really key. And on top of it, like the unselfishness that's come to this group. Like talking to Jaylen Pile, he's like, yeah, you know, like, I mean, he kind of spelled out like not exactly the same position group, but not exactly like the same position at wide receiver. But he's like, yeah, no, competition breeds success, my guy. We need the competition. A Michigan man. By the way, Jaylen Pile, if he is not like a fan favorite, like I need to have him on the show here soon. But if he's not like already a fan favorite, like he should be. You should not be looking at that star ranking and letting it say anything to you. It's like he's relatively comparable in a lot of ways to Mikey Sainristil as a human. And if he's got the work ethic and the smarts, they're probably going to have a similar trajectory. That doesn't mean he's going to go from wide receiver to playing corner. Maybe it does. I don't know. Interesting stuff from him. But just to see, like, yeah, he's not shying away. You see the picture, like, Tariq Boney, who is the lowest rated, not that anything he cares about, but, you know, you would think that some of these guys that are more, you know, on the recruiting rankings be like, ooh, I'm ranked 800th in the country. That guy's ranked 20th. Whether it's a Calvin Russell or a Carter Meadows, be like, I don't know that I want to try to get this guy to come here because I want to make sure my position's secure. Nope, they don't care about that at all. Jaylen Pile out here saying like a Michigan man embraces competition, welcomes it, wants it. That's massive. To have that type of mentality at 16, 17 years old. That's huge. But there's a lot more that kind of happened over the course of the weekend that I think is really pertinent. So I want to get to some more of the stuff that I think that is unbelievable, honestly, about this recruiting class. I mean, I know this is a little bit different than the types of things we normally talk about. But after getting a worm in my ear about some of the things that made it special, to just having that conversation with Pile in particular today, I think that you're going to just like what you hear here. So let's get to more of it. We're going to do so here in just a moment. But before we do, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, or even if you are, because, you've got a phone in your hand. You can do it anywhere. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and make even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm playing same game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm a part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. You get $150 if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. It's very confusing. I'm encoding video while I record this. I've got my computer screen is like mirrored on the TV ahead of me, so I can see my progress and other things, other info that I need when we record these shows. But it's lagging because it's rendering video. So I don't know where I'm at time-wise, and my eyes are not good enough to see the little tiny screen in front of me here. We might have renovated the office, the studio, which is actually just more of an office at this point, but doesn't mean it's full go. So excuse me as I squint off an instance. Let me check back in on my notes to make sure I'm here. So everyone arrived on Thursday for Victor's weekend. Part of it was like inclement weather in some areas, East Coast in particular. But like the one thing that someone in the know told me was just how quickly the current commitments, the guys who are already in the class, how quickly they took charge. Like that they wanted everyone to feel like they were a part of something. And I think what makes it interesting is some of these guys are meeting for the first time now. They supposedly have group text amongst the entire class, right? And like they're talking all the time, but like, you don't know how many of these guys have met. So they've got a couple of these guys who did recently. McHale Blade, Alister Vallejo. Like both of those guys committed this month. Right. So you have that, but it's not like everyone's necessarily close. So for some, it was about like coming to meet brother. But all on top of it, it was a situation where they made, I kept on hearing like they made everyone there, whether you were in the class or you were just visiting for Victor's weekend, this particular official visit weekend, this past weekend. How many times can I say weekend? Say it more. Weekend. But they made everyone feel like they were a part of the class. I think that is crucial, right? Like imagine it's you're going to like a wedding party, right? You're going to like a vacation wedding. Like you have people that are there that you are interested in getting to know, right? Like you might know the family, one of the families, right? Like Coach Sherrone Moore, but I know Lamar Morgan or whoever, right? But I don't know anybody else. Like I don't know all the other people. And by the end of the night, you're at the reception and you've got the grandma hugging you, you've got the uncle bringing you drinks, you've got, you know what I'm saying? Like, both the best man and the maid of honor. Like you're put up there at the same level as the bride and groom. Like it's your wedding now too. And you leave feeling like I was a part of this. This was amazing. That's kind of how it kind of sounded like Victor's weekend went. Like I've heard from multiple people, like, everyone left feeling like they were a part of the class, even if they were not committed, even if it felt like they were going to end up elsewhere. Like that's hard to beat. If for no other reason, then you are going to have an association at that point. You're going to look back and be like, especially because you hear constantly, how many times have I been on the phone with and I've said, what's important to you? And they say, a family atmosphere, a place where I feel like I can fit in, a place that feels like home. These guys did everything possible. The Piles, the Smigels, the McHorders, others, Tariq Boney, to do exactly that for all of these guys. It's not a surprise to see like Davis commit. It's not a surprise to see that Dorian Barney now is trending towards Michigan after looking like there was no way he was going to end up at Michigan. Georgia kid looking like he was going to end up at Penn State. Now suddenly, especially because it's like, man, who's Michigan going to get at cornerback? Like they've got Brody Jenkins, but like, I don't know who else is they're going to get. Like Donovan Webb, but he seems like he's more of a nickel at this point. And then suddenly Dorian Barney is like potentially in the class. It looks like he's at least trending to be in the class. I would venture if we were to ask him, which maybe we'll do, how much did that make a difference when you started hanging around with the current commitments and their families, and you started to be around them? How much did they make you feel like you were a part of the family? I'm sure that played a big part. And one of the things that Jaylen Pile said, you can, again, read the whole feature. It's 2,500 words over at Wolverines Wire. It's funny. When I tangent, sometimes I forget what I was going to say. But it's just interesting to hear, like, and I remember now, how it's like, that you can drop your son off and that they're going to be fine because of the circle of people around them, right? They're going off on a field trip to Moscow as, I don't know why, I'm just thinking of my old friend Danny Mooney, who did like music camp in Russia back in the 2000s. But it's like, oh, you're going out, going off someplace to a far distant land. Are you going to be okay? I have faith if I'm a parent because I know the people they're with. I don't care about the people around. I know who they're with. I think that's huge. That's absolutely huge to have that type of support system in place. And it kind of starts there. And then on top of that, here's the other interesting thing. And this was something that Jaylen had mentioned that I was new to me, was even the parents of the commits have a group text. Even the parents. Like the fact that they have a group chat, they're all talking, they are getting comfortable with each other. When it comes to the Smigels and the Piles, and again the McHorders, I mean, those are all offensive. Like, I think it's interesting these are all on offense. But it kind of reminds me of Jim McCarthy. And like some of those other, like, you know, JJ was the 21 class, but it reminds me of like James Corum, Jim McCarthy, like those types of parents. At this point, like, I know by the time they're in year 3, Bryce will be gone. But maybe by the time that they're in year 3, like Brady Smigel will be starting, and it will, but like, I would not be surprised if this is a group that, now college football is different, but like, it just feels like a group that is going to succeed based off of just the togetherness. They're all pulling in the same direction. That is exactly one of the reasons, if probably the biggest reason why Michigan won the national championship a couple years ago. I mean, that and the cheating. I mean, those were the 2 reasons, really. Connor's mom sitting in the stands with their phone, videoing Purdue, and the culture and togetherness inside the locker room. The 1A, 1B, really. I look forward to Buckeye people clipping this and taking that part out of context and be like, he admitted it, as if everything that surrounded what I just said didn't exist. That's how it always goes. Let's continue talking about the weekend that was, what all of it means, because I'm honestly really, I'm not surprised. I'm just, it's endearing. It's an endearing story to hear, kind of. Let's continue talking about it here in just a moment. I think one of the things that's interesting is you had a lot of guys that were traveling together kind of inadvertently. Jaylen told me he was on the same flight as Zayden Krempin. Tariq Boney was on the same flight as Carter Meadows. Not surprising. I mean, the same regions and all of that, but that gave extra opportunities for some of these guys. So what I think is, I mean, part of it sounds like a cult. It's not, but I mean, just I'm now, especially when it's like the new guys, the guy like McHale Blade, like just joined the class and just being like, your turn. But no, it's hearing some of these things about how, like, they were just on their official visit. Like, McHale Blade just visited 3 weeks ago, was not committed. Commits to Michigan. He's back 2 weeks later being like, bro, he's like, you know, sitting there with Carter Meadows and Julian Walker and Jackson Ford and all these guys and being like, I made this decision based off of all of this. But like, it's kind of one of those things because they also knew what to expect on the visit. And I think that kind of helped them, right? Like, they've already been through the process and they're back. Now, granted, like, these guys have been in the process elsewhere, right? But like, it's not surprising to see Coach McCann, the agent for Savion Hyder, posting things about how Michigan's just different, right? Like, all of this jives with exactly what he said, like about on social media, about the idea that other schools treat him like an agent, whereas Michigan treats him as part of a family. That's going to resonate, like, especially when if it would be one thing if it was like Michigan did this, but they just are not a successful program. Like, if this is like 2016 Rutgers and you're like, yeah, they're no good, but man, they're nice, you know? But this all is like, it's emanating from Sherrone Moore down. This is how you build a lasting program, and this is how you get to a place where guys don't transfer out, but guys transfer in. Like, yeah, guys will always transfer out, especially like, look at like a couple of years ago after the national championship, Michigan did lose a lot of guys that, not a lot, but it lost a couple that wanted to keep. Like Keon Sabb is the name that comes to mind. Really, it's just him. I mean, yeah, it might have helped to maybe have kept, Darius Clemens didn't really do anything at Oregon State. He went home to Oregon, but like, Would have helped to have more big, tall, lanky receivers if they could produce, right? But, this is how you get to a place where it's just like guys don't want to leave. Guys are in the fold and they're just like, I don't want to transfer because I don't want to leave behind what I have here. And it is all just a reflection on the head coach. That this is the head coach mentality. And I mean, Jaylen Pile said basically exactly that. Like the family element coming from Sherrone Moore, like and like the work ethic, the not being afraid of competition, all of that stuff coming down from Sherrone Moore. This, more than anything, makes me optimistic for the future of the program. Now, X's and O's and all of that, you got to continue to win games. Sherrone's already shown that he can, like, this is one of the things that we talked about last week. The fact that Sherrone has shown that he can win the games that he's not supposed to. Ohio State and Alabama, like, it's been. And now, I understand Rich Rod's 2008 team beat a Wisconsin team that had no business beating, but he also lost to Toledo. That kind of nullifies it. Like, losing to 10-win Illinois, a Washington team that didn't lose at home, Texas, Oregon, and the Indiana team that was, it's about mostly college football playoff teams. You can't really look at that and be like, well, that's unacceptable. But beating Ohio State and Alabama shows like, okay, he can keep his group together, I think is the most important thing, right? Like a lot of other teams, once they lost to maybe Illinois, right? With the injuries and all of those things, how feckless Michigan felt in that game. Part of that might be projection because let me just keep on hitting my microphone. Part of that might be projection because I was super sick that week on the sidelines. I was not in a good place. Like I was like in the photo room with my head on the desk until kickoff, but if you remember, I didn't have a voice. But at the same time, like I think that like that's probably how that game went. Was not a good showing. A lot of teams would have lost everything at that point. They would have been like, yeah, I'm out. Season's over. We'll try again next year, maybe somewhere else. Not what happened. So to hear Sherrone, like these recruits sound like Sherrone Moore. It's like Jack from Fight Club. Tyler's voice coming out of my mouth. Kind of how it felt. That's a good thing in this situation. Bad thing in Fight Club terms. But I think it's really encouraging. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. I'm sure I am. It's interesting. One of the things I didn't know, Malachi Lee went to middle school with Brady Smigel. That's a pretty good nugget I didn't know. Again, the parents thing is huge. The families recruiting families, not just recruits recruiting recruits. It's not just the coaches, it's the players, it's the families. It's a pyramid scheme. It's a pyramid scheme that we should all be proud of for once. No offense if you're an Amway fan. All right, that's it. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. Thank you for listening. Make sure you check out the Stock Up, Stock Down episode from earlier today. If you haven't seen or listened or watched that yet, plan is to be back on Wednesday. We're trying to make up for some lost time. We're supposed to only do 3 shows a week. That's all we've done. I'd like to get to 5 this week. Maybe do one every day for the rest of the month. That would be ideal if we can find a way to make it happen. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.